finally, we want to think about the coordination of elements, the way everything is put together. In this area, we would always consider theatrical conventions. Of course, the major convention of this time period is that there are no actresses. Men play women on this stage. There are no specific costumes specific to the plays. The actors are actually wearing elaborate clothes of their own period, mostly, with just a few things tacked on, maybe to indicate Rome. We know that there were not sets for each individual play, but they were performed in those purpose-built theaters against a fixed backdrop. But what we're most interested is in the economic structures of the theaters. These were theater companies, what we would now call a cooperative, a group of people who got together and performed a repertory of plays ostensibly for the purpose of entertaining their royal patron, but their public performances in London were supposed to be them rehearsing to get ready to be good enough to perform for their royal patron, for the Queen, or for the royal court, but were in fact the ways that the company made money. Most of everything that we know about the economic structures of the theaters of this time come from one single source, and that source is what's called Henslow's diary. Henslow was the producer behind not Shakespeare's company, but its chief rival, the Admiral's Men. And he was an odd duck. He was not just a theatrical producer, but entrepreneur on all sorts of levels in London. But he did keep a detailed book. It's not really a diary. It's just called that. It's much more a sort of business ledger, in which he talks about which plays are being performed, who he's hiring to write them, who he's paying for, what costumes he's buying for the company. Shakespeare's company appeared to be more of a group. They were their own owners, their own ensemble. But Henslow actually hired his company. His son-in-law, Edward Alleyn, was the prominent actor, the most prominent actor of Shakespeare's period. The first person to play Dr. Faustus, and many other very notable roles during the time period. Alleyn became enormously wealthy, and when he died, he left a great deal of money to Cambridge University to establish a college there, and he left his papers, and in his papers was this diary from Henslow, who was his father-in-law. So it's from this source that we have information about how much playwrights got paid, how much actors got paid, how much members of the company were paid compared to men that they picked up to play small parts, add to the company, compared to extras. We get some idea of what it cost to put on a play, how often plays were put on, actually most of them for less than a dozen performances. Lots and lots of fascinating detail here. This diary has been well known and well documented for a century and a half now, but it still was very difficult to get a hold of it, or even printed copies of it. And once you could find a copy, it still was enormously difficult to decipher it. But recently, there has been a project to digitize it. It is called the Henslow-Alleyn Digitation Project, that has digital photographs of the entire diary and transcriptions of it so that you can read it. There's lots of abbreviations in the diary itself that are spelled out for you so that you can see exactly what it says and what it meant, what the abbreviation is an abbreviation for, and it comes with footnotes that explain what a lot of the references are to, because he sometimes will just say, £9 to Decker, and so it'll tell us how much money that is, and clarify that it's the playwright, Thomas Dekker, who's being paid, and even on some occasions what he's being paid for exactly. We still have much less information than we wish we had about this time period, especially about the operations of Shakespeare's company. We would give anything to have a diary like this that traced the business practices of Shakespeare's company. But we are very lucky that at least the chief rival company's records are complete enough for us to get a view of how the theater operated over about a 30 or 40 year period. And it's from this that we get our chief overview of the economic conditions of the time.